Today, it's the race to make the race and find your ticket to paradise. The Gatorade Duel at Daytona is about so many things, but the main focus is to race your way in to the Great American Race. For the drivers up front, the goal is a win. For those on the outside looking in, a spot in the Daytona 500 would equal a race win today. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of NASCAR Race Day, built by the Home Depot. 300 miles of racing, broken up into 2 duels, and 17 drivers going for just 4 spots in one of NASCAR's biggest spectacles, and that is the Daytona 500, and this all sets us up for a great day. Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us on this beautiful, windy, but sunny day here in Daytona. I'm John Roberts alongside of Mr. Excitement, Jimmy Spencer, and the driver of the number 28 Nationwide car, Kenny Wallace. And Kenny Wallace, we got to start out talking about the drama of this day. You've lived it so many times before down here, and Jimmy has too, but last year you were able to race your way into the Daytona 500.
Last year was the 50th running of the Daytona 500. Everything was painted gold, and that was a special year, but every year is special at Daytona. Last year, I was asked to drive the 78 or the 87 Furniture Row Chevrolet. You know, going into the day, it's like, man, I'll do anything. I'll do anything to make the Daytona 500. I've been on my knees. This is no lie, race fans. I've been in my motorhome before on my knees saying, dear Lord, please let me make the Daytona 500. I mean, that's how intense it is. Because when you make the Daytona 500, I mean, it almost sets your season. I mean, Friday and Saturday, everybody's coming up congratulating you. 80% of the field is locked in. Here are me and my brother, Mike. I was just so relieved, Jimmy Spencer. I mean, 80% of the field is locked in. The top 35, there's only a handful of spots left, Spence.
Oh, I know it, Kenny, but you know what? Listen to this. Jeremy Mayfield, Mike Skinner, Scott Riggs, Mike Wallace, Joe Nemechek, John Andretti, a previous winner here at Daytona, Derek Cope, and Jeff Bodine, previous Daytona 500 winners. 4 of those guys ain't going to be in the 500, Johnny. Big, big day for these guys.
So here's the big question we find at this time every year, and that's how do we set the field for this Daytona 500? Top 35 and owner points are locked in. The front row was set on pole day. 3 through 39 are set today by finishing order in the Gatorade Duel, which is live on speed. The final 4 spots are based on qualifying speeds, and if an eligible past champion is not already qualified, the driver receives the 43rd and final position. Here we go. Gatorade Duel number 1. The past champion, Terry Labonte, he's in blue. The guys who have already qualified their way in by virtue of their qualifying speed are Bill Elliott and Tony Stewart. Some of the names that Spencer just mentioned: Joe Nemechek, Scott Riggs, Keselowski, Shelmerdine and Reigns, Skinner, and Carl Long. Those are the drivers to keep your eye on today because, as Kenny said, this could set their whole season.
And here we go. You know, Bill Elliott, he's walked into this race, but he's got a great starting spot in that car. How about our champion, Jimmy Johnson? Eric Amarillo, new team here with Ganassi, you know, Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart. Let's face it, guys, we're talking about some experience in this one, Kenny.
Yeah, and you look at somebody like Scott Riggs, who has got a new team with Tommy Baldwin. If that team does not make the race, they will come back next week in California, but it will be complete devastation if they do not make it.
Here's where it's getting critical. These guys need to really pick it up. They didn't qualify really well. Will they run good in this twin to get them a good starting spot for the 500?
Here are the drivers to watch in duel number 2. Travis Kvapil is in by virtue of his qualifying run, but Regan Smith, Boris Said, Allmendinger, Mayfield, Mike Wallace, Garvey, Derek Cope, Byers, Jeffrey Bodine, and Norm Benning are all the drivers that must race their way in through this duel number 2, which Mark Martin will start on the front row with former Daytona 500 winner just last year, Ryan Newman.
Fans, be prepared for that 5 car. He's hooked up. If you're a Mark Martin fan, he's going to run well today. But Kenny, look at this. Boris Said, Denny Hamlin back there, Carl Edwards. A lot of guys, you know, can they get up there front and mix it up?
A.J. Allmendinger, this is a team that if they do not make it, another devastation. Right now, they're only scheduled to run like 8 races.
Look at this. Kevin Harvick all the way back in 24th. He had a gear problem qualifying. Let's face it, though, we saw what happened in the Bud shootout. He will get his way up there. Previous Daytona 500 2 years ago. I will not count out Harvick in this. being a contender, Johnny.
Now, here's the real fun thing you got to watch for this afternoon on Speed. The fun thing is you're watching the front of this pack to see who wins this race and who improves their qualifying position. But you're also watching the back of the pack because these guys have to watch whom they are racing against. And they got to watch them because they can really a guy could actually finish third in one of these dual races and not make the Daytona 500.
Hey, listen, last year, I was getting ready to go into third place. I looked up and I had a big gap. I started trail braking. I was wide open trail braking. Why? I wanted to get into line, Jimmy Spencer, because I didn't want that second group to catch me. I finished 8th and just was good enough to make the Daytona 500. It's a crazy lineup.
The biggest thing you have to realize, fans, Jimmy Johnson, Tony Stewart, these guys, man, they don't want to start 35th, 36th in the Daytona 500. They want to be in that top 10. They know they want to have a good starting position, a good pit selection for the race. First race of the season for the championship. Big, big race.
And on this hot afternoon in Daytona, we got to check in with Wendy Venturini for our DirecTV Hot Pass. Wendy, what's going on down there in the garage area?
Well, good afternoon, gentlemen. What a great sunny day here in Daytona for the Gatorade Duel on Speed. Now, let's get to it. You saw that starting grid. Some of these guys will be going to the rear of field before these races. The first one being because of an engine change. Casey Mears had to change his engine back on Saturday afternoon, so they have to start from the rear of the starting of the first race. He was scheduled to start 21st. Now, also with an engine change, Ryan Newman, race number 2, he was on the outside front row. He will give up that spot to start in the rear. But of course, you never know what's going to happen with Ryan Newman. Now, there are some guys that had some trouble on that racetrack, one of them being young rookie Joey Logano. He scraped the right side of his race car. He will not be going to a backup car. The team decided to fix that car, make it nice and smooth, and here this morning, the car has a new wrap on it, and it looks good to go for Joey Logano. He's in race number 1, starting 10th. Now, there are also some other cars going in the backup because of accidents during yesterday's practice session, the big one being Jamie McMurray and Michael Waltrip. They are both scheduled for duel number 1. Now, Jamie McMurray goes to a backup. He was scheduled to start 12th. His backup car, the shootout car from Saturday, so we know it's a good piece. Talk about Michael Waltrip in race number 1, was scheduled to start 16th. You see that car broke a sway bar, the track bar, some suspension pieces. So that car was actually sent back to North Carolina and is being repaired, will become the backup for the Daytona 500. It will return here in Daytona by tomorrow morning. That backup car for today for Michael Waltrip hopes it's as good as that primary piece he had in practice yesterday. Now, these are guys that are locked in. However, Hermie Sadler, there are 17 guys racing for 4 spots. And at the end of the day, 13 guys are going to have their dreams shattered, unfortunately.
They really are, Wendy, and what a brutal day this is for those guys on the outside looking in. Let me tell you from experience, the most stress-free way to get in the Daytona 500, do it like Tony Stewart and Bill Elliott did it. Both of these guys locked themselves in on qualifying last week with fast speeds. Bill Elliott in the 21 car, Tony Stewart in the Home Depot Old Spice car. But as you said, still 17 guys on the outside looking in. So let's break down the duels to see who's got the best chance of getting in. We talked a little bit about them in the open. Joe Nemechek in the first duel. A lot of history at Daytona, usually pretty good at places like this. Scott Riggs, crew chief and owner Tommy Baldwin is a former Daytona 500 winning crew chief. That may help him today. Brad Keselowski drives for Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the Nationwide Series. What a feather in his cap it would be to race his way in the Daytona 500. And Mike Skinner starting all the way back in 27th in the first duel, but he is a former duel winner. Watch out for him today as he tries to make his way in to the Daytona 500. Now, duel number 2, Regan Smith in the 78 car. If one other car locks in duel number 1, he is in, but you cannot depend on other people. He needs to race his way in. Boris Said, a former pole sitter here at Daytona, trying to race his way into the Daytona 500. A.J. Allmendinger thought as late as last week that he would be locked in. He is not. He's got to race his way in. He starts 19th. 2 other guys to look out for, maybe some dark horses trying to get in, Jeremy Mayfield and Mike Wallace. It's going to be a lot of fun. Back to Wendy.
Thanks, Hermie. Although there's a lot of these guys locked in, the pressure's still not off. Their objective, a great starting position for the Daytona 500, but the qualifying didn't really go as some of these teams wanted, one of them being the 2 of Kurt Busch. He is scheduled to start 22nd in this race, hoping to get a good starting position for that Daytona 500. Casey Kane, the other one, he's starting 19th in race number 1, the duel number 1. Now here's a guy that had a poor starting position, Kevin Harvick, but as Jimmy Spencer mentioned, he had a gear that blew up, so he will be starting in duel number 2, 24th. He has to race his way up because he definitely wants that good pit stall, as Jimmy was talking about. A good starting position is very important here for the Daytona 500. Johnny?
Wendy, thanks a lot. And let's remember, this is not just any race you're qualifying for. This is the Daytona 500, where dreams can be made for drivers of any age. We have drivers from 18 to 50 years old racing today, and fans of all ages as well. We'll get you down on the grid when we come back for more action as we get ready for a drama-packed afternoon.
I'm sorry. I really am sorry if I make anybody mad this year.
Well, he tried.
Brad Coleman, where'd this guy come from? Let me tell you something, NASCAR, you got this all wrong.
Will a new year bring a new Spence? Or will he continue to drop the hammer?
Kyle Busch, I think the world of you. But don't go down that road, the best there ever was.
More ahead from the Spensionary.
We're at Daytona, expect no different. This is the precedence of all of racing.
NASCAR Race Day, built by the Home Depot.
It takes something extra, and he's never showed it to me.
You're going to get in trouble for saying that, Jimmy.
It's okay.
The process may be a little hard to understand, but that's part of the fun of the Gatorade Duel at Daytona. The one thing you got to remember, and maybe the only thing you need to remember through this whole process, is at the end of the day today, we know who will race in the 51st running of the Daytona 500. Now we're going to get you down where the tension is starting to grow as we get closer and closer to these dual races. And let's check in with Wendy Venturini.
Well, thanks, Johnny. The introduction stage has just been put out as Truck Series practice has ended. Michael Waltrip and Casey Kane chatting before duel number 1 here on Speed. Michael, in a backup car. We know we've been covering the story on Speed. The primary is being sent back to Charlotte just in case to get fixed. What about this backup car you're racing? Because I heard you say in that first practice session before that race that it almost reminded you of the old 15 Napa car.
Yeah, it was awesome, and I was talking to Casey about the accident, and my car was just really fast. But when we got it into drafting practice yesterday for the first time, it was fast right away, and we didn't. So this one will probably be the same. That's our hope. The wind tunnel numbers match up identically, and so we're optimistic that it'll be good. But darn, I like that car. We were trying to figure out what happened. I just, gave Casey a little push, and we were fine. And somehow, I guess, I rolled off the gas to get off him, and Strimmy just clobbered me. But you can't see very well. It's really no one's fault. I just was going a little faster than him, I guess.
We were watching the video thanks to Michael Waltrip. Let's move over to Casey Kane. We mentioned him at the top of the show, one of those guys who's starting 19th in duel number 1. Casey, not exactly the qualifying effort you probably were wanted, so you're going to really have to race your way to get a good starting spot for the 500. How patient can you be, and will you be patient?
Well, I think 60 or 65 laps. I think you just have to kind of run your race like I have been the last, on Saturday night and the last couple races here. Hopefully we get through it. And our Budweiser Dodge was fast yesterday. It drove pretty well. Today it's going to be handling for sure. It's pretty hot out. And yesterday I saw Mike coming, and he barely touched me. I was a little bit sideways, and then I saw him disappear out of my mirror. So I knew he got clobbered from behind, but it's one of them racing deals.
Sure is. Thanks to Casey Kane. This is a long 2 weeks here in Daytona, but this is a very important day to determine the starting field for the Daytona 500. Let's head over to Hermie Sadler.
Well, standing by with Jamie McMurray in the Crown Royal Fusion, you were involved in some of that stuff too. And why did you wait till the last practice session to wreck your car? What'd you do that for?
Well, that certainly wasn't planned. I went through 3 cars last year here, and after making it through the shootout, as wild as that was, I thought, well, maybe we'll be able to survive this weekend. But those guys got a little bit wild in the tri-oval, and Michael came down and ended up getting into me, and we had to pull our shootout car out. And I kind of joked around with the team yesterday that if you had to pull a car out, this would be a really good backup. We thought it was our 3rd best car, but it ran so well in the shootout, and it drove so well that no practice, but I feel pretty good about it today.
Well, that's another thing you can't fall back on. Normally, no practice on a car to start a race would be a concern, but you've got to feel a certain comfort level with this car.
Yeah, I mean, Donnie said that they put the same springs back in at the same rounds. The shocks and all of the heights and the bump gaps and everything worked out perfect. Not that I know what any of that means, but he said it all worked out really well. So I've got a lot of confidence in him that if he says it's going to be good, that it should be a good day.
And Jamie McMurray, a former winner here at Daytona. Wendy?
Thanks, Hermie. Sam Hornish here on pit wall. Now, how important do you see this race? Because this is determines the starting field for the Daytona 500. What does this mean to you? What is your strategy going to be?
Our strategy is just to kind of just feel the car out at first, make sure that the Mobile One Dodge is capable of running in and outside of other people. And, you know, I think it's going to be a little bit different than the race was last year. Everybody kind of was a lot calmer last year, but as I've seen from practice and seen from the shootout the other night, everybody's taking it pretty seriously, even when it's not for any money or any points. So, you know, the big thing for us to do is just try to make it through the first 3 quarters of this race, position ourselves well for the end.
All right, good luck to Sam Hornish. Of course, one of those guys that's locked in, another guy locked in. Casey Mears that we mentioned also at the top of the show. Casey Mears will be starting from the rear of the field for duel number 1, Casey, because of that engine change on Saturday. How does that change what you might have in store for once the green flag falls? Because you really need a good starting position for that 500.
Yeah, I think that, you know, the biggest thing you got to look at is how everybody's racing. You know, I mean, if everybody's pretty calm the first part of the race and we feel like we can get through the field without, you know, getting caught up in something, we definitely want to do that and get up towards the front and kind of hang up towards the front. If everybody's being pretty wild and bouncing off each other, we might hang back there for a while and let it relax. So, you know, a lot of people have different agendas going into this race, and that's the biggest thing that you gotta think about and keep in mind. You know, who's out there, you know, with a lot on the line trying to make the show, and who out there is going to be conservative. So, studied who those guys were and studied who the guys are you think we can work with, and you know, hopefully we can come out with a win with the Jack Daniels Chevrolet.
All right, good luck to Casey Mears, and we appreciate the RCR team behind us, the 31 pit box. Watching race day right now, I just noticed. Johnny, let's head back out to you.
Wendy, thanks a lot. We are less than 1 hour away from the start of the first Gatorade Duel here at Daytona. And race fans, we want to make it easy on you. Put the clicker down. We got you covered all day long, from race day to the race to victory lane. Business is picking up here at the Daytona International Speedway. Once again, we are less than an hour away from the start of Gatorade Duel number 1, which will go a long way towards setting the field for the Daytona 500. The grid will be set by the time all is said and done today. Let's get you back down where all the action is, where Hermie Sadler's hanging out. Take it away, Herm.
Thank you, JR. Martin Truex Jr. If there's a place to sit on the pole, it's Daytona for a number of reasons. Number 1, the prestige, but you've been on the pole for a long time now. I know you want to go into the Daytona 500 with a lot of momentum.
Yeah, we do. You know, it's been a great week so far. Hopefully we continue that today. Our car was leading the pack real well in practice, and the plan right now is to stay out front, stay out of trouble. So we'll have to see where the handling goes. You know, the track's going to get real slick. It's been a handful throughout practice. So if we can't stay out front, we get back in the pack, we'll have to just be a little bit careful.
You obviously had a fast car in qualifying. What have you seen that you've had to adjust on your car to make it drivable for today's race?
Well, our car's been real tight. It's been hard to turn, especially on the bottom. So we've been working on that, trying to get the car turning better. But even when it's been tight, it's been really fast. You know, like I said, I've been able to get out in the front of the pack and lead, and they really haven't been able to get runs on me. So we'll have to see. You know, the race is totally different than practice no matter what. Everybody's on the same tires all the time, and the pack will be bigger. So we'll just have to see what happens. But hopefully we can stay out front and put this Bass Pro in victory lane.
Been a good week for these guys so far. He said if the race goes green, he'll probably run about 30 laps midway and get 4 tires and try to go after him again for the last 30.
Thanks, Hermie. And we're here with Joey Logano. Joey, we talked about at the top of the NASCAR race day about your car getting fixed, the fab guys working on it, putting a new wrap, looks good as new. What kind of changes does Zipadelli have to make to that car to make it a little bit more comfortable for you?
Well, I just don't think any of these cars drive good. I think it's just the nature of the COT car at Daytona. But yeah, we keep working on it. You know, we get one end of the boat to the other end. You know, we get tight, then we get really loose. So just trying to find a happy medium with the Home Depot Toyota, and we made some big changes and see what she can do.
Can you shake it all off? What happened?
Oh yeah. That's in the past now. You always worry about the future.
All right, good job. Good luck to you, Joey. Now some other guys that are locked in: David Ragan, Marcus Ambrose. Sorry about that, Marcus. I want to talk to you about your race car. One of those guys locked in, a little bit more, less pressure, but nonetheless, you need a good starting spot for the Daytona 500. We'll get it out. There's too much chatting going on back here.
Yeah, you know, I'm just really excited to be here. You know, we've got a brand new season we're looking at right now, and just excited to get it started. no pressure on me, but I just really want to get in the groove and let people know that I'm going to do the right thing out there and get a little aggressive and show people that I'm not going to be pushed around either. So I'm going to try and balance it all out.
All right, good luck to Marcus Ambrose, and I'm going to turn back around right here. Our yellows kind of clash there, David, but nice bright suit. Car nice and bright. How's that race going to be for today? Sharing a Coca-Cola. I won't tell anyone.
Coke Zero that Joey just gave me. I don't know if he drank out of it or not, but I trust him. I'll take a swig of it. But I think our UPS 4 is going to be fast. Start 13th. It's always a good little test run to get the crews involved and get everybody involved. So I'm ready to race.
All right, good luck to David Reagan. Only on NASCAR race day do you find that they're sharing their drinks pre-race. Hermie?
I don't know if I like the sound of that. I'm not sharing drinks over there, but with the champ, Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy, I guess today, officially you start the quest for 4 in a row. I know you hadn't thought about that yet, so but how'd you call today for Daytona?
I think it's good, and I mean we've certainly thought about how cool it would be, but there's to win a 4th, there's so much racing between now and even when the chase starts that we just got to focus on today and do all that we can. I'm excited to be a part of the Gatorade Duel. I think we've got a great shot at winning today, and just looking forward to getting the season started. I think we all enjoyed our off season, but at the same time the racer and all of us wanted to be back on the track, and now it's here.
You made an interesting point before we went on the air here with you. The track has changed, the tires changed, but this car gives you limited adjustability to try to catch it with the racetrack, so makes it a little more difficult to get something you think is comfortable.
Yeah, you asked me how my car is going to be, and I said, well, I think it's going to be good. And you said, well, everybody's saying that. So we're kind of boxed in, and it's by design from NASCAR. They want to keep this plate stuff as fair as possible, and with all the stuff they give us in the tech room, we don't have a lot of tools left to adjust the car. So it really boils down to the way the driver works to draft and the situations that he's presented with, the pit stop that we're going to have, and really at the end of this race, the strategy if you come in for 4 or not. So it's going to be exciting. We'll still find a way to make it exciting. I think we showed that the other night in the shootout.
It's going to be a lot of fun to watch, JR. These guys, you can see the tension on the face. Everybody wants to get a good starting spot for the Daytona 500.
Yeah, and Hermie, no matter what track you're at or what kind of racing it is, you simply cannot write off that number 48 team, especially when it comes down to making the right call on the top of the pit box. We got you covered all day long on speed. Keep it right here. We'll be back with more of the shootout of the dual drivers in just a moment.
Welcome back to NASCAR Race Day here at Daytona International Speedway. We are getting you ready for the Gatorade Duel only on speed, and the driver introductions are just getting ready to start. We're still chatting with some of these drivers before they head off into those race cars. Matt Kenseth, Greg Biffle, teammates. Maybe they're forming some kind of strategy here for duel number 1. Matt, what is your go time strategy going to be?
I'm just going to try to run hard, really get a good read on the car and how it's going to handle. It's hasn't drove the same yesterday as like when our shootout car drove on Saturday, so I'm really interested to see what the handle's going to be like, and hopefully the race will be a little bit more calm than Saturday nights, and we'll be able to position ourselves somewhere in the front for a good starting spot on Sunday.
All right, good luck to you, Matt. Now, Greg, the weather's a little bit different. It was windy yesterday. Today's hot and slick and really sunny today. How's that going to affect how your race car might perform today?
Well, I certainly think that the cars are going to have less grip and people are going to be, sliding around a lot more. So certainly, it's going to be difficult to get 3 wide and maintain your car. But we'll have to wait and see. On new tires, it probably won't be bad. But I'm going to do what Matt's going to do. I'm going to kind of go with the flow. If it's fairly calm and we're bump drafted and we can get some decent track position, I'll certainly hang in there and go hard. But if it gets a little hairy, I might step out for a little bit and then see if I'm still around at the end.
All right, thanks, Greg. And as Dick Bergeron just hit these guys on the shoulders and said, may your race cars look as good as they do after the races. They do right now. Well, we'll see. Now, these drivers don't know what's going to happen, and neither do we. Let's head over to Hermie.
Well, thank you, Wendy. Standing by with Tony Stewart now. I know you're technically the owner and driver, but just driving, I heard you say this week. But if you had to script your week so far, first time out, you've got to be pretty pleased so far.
Yeah, we really have. It's been a great start to a new venture, obviously, and a great partnership with Old Spice and Office Depot, and just excited today. We got our good buddy AJ Foyt with us on the box, so we had to slide all the computers to one end, put him on the other end, keep him from throwing the laptops off the box. But it's going to be fun today. I mean, we're excited to have him here, and all the Office Depot people are here today and excited. So looking forward to a good day.
You get to drive the first race and then maybe go back to the owner a little bit in the second race and watch your teammate Ryan Newman.
Yeah, it's no different than what we would have done last year with Kyle and Denny and stuff. So, but excited for Ryan. didn't get quite as much practice as we'd liked for him to have got yesterday because of a minor motor issue that we had. So cost him some track time. But Ryan's good here. Obviously, he won the 500 last year, so he knows his way around here. So it's going to be fun to watch him.
Tony Stewart trying to win in his first time out in the Office Depot Old Spice Chevrolet. Wendy?
Thanks, Hermie. Another guy that's locked into today's race locked in for the Daytona 500 is Bill Elliott in duel number 1. Bill, so do you approach this race any differently now that you have the pad of knowing that you are locked in?
Well, I mean, there's several ways you got to look at it. I mean, first, I think you got to go kind of see how the race unfolds. We'll get it started, kind of see how things go. If you get to where the car's not handling the way it should be, then come in and make your changes and work toward the 500 on Sunday. Because at least you got the cushion to fall back on your time. Then on the flip side, if it'll handle good and it'll run well, hang in there and see what you can do. But, we know we've got a good backup car in the truck regardless of what happens today. And I don't know that it's going to discriminate whether you're in the front or in the back. Whatever happens is going to happen.
And we won't tell anyone that Tony Stewart just gave you a nice pat on the rear. Okay, let's talk about what could happen, though, Bill, because everybody's saying these cars are unpredictable. You're saying you don't know what's going to happen. Greg Biffle told me the same thing. Is it just a wait and see what will happen when that green flag drops?
Well, I mean, everybody's going to have to kind of bide their time. I mean, it is a 60-lap race or 150 miles. And, you look at it from that standpoint and say, okay, we'll get in this deal and kind of ride it out and see what it is. Because unlike the Bud Shootout the other night, their ultimate goal is to be here Sunday afternoon. And, if this is their best car and they know it's their best car, they know they've got to get it through these dual 150s.
All right, good luck to Bill Elliott. And one thing, Johnny, that stood out in my mind in that interview, did you notice he said that we have a backup in the trailer just as good as this primary car. You never know what's going to happen in these dual races today. If guys will be going to backup, are their backups going to be as strong as their primaries for the Daytona 500?
Yeah, and Wendy, any race fan out there looking for some good news, how's that for good news? Wood Brothers Racing will be in this year's Daytona 500 despite all the rumors of their demise. So it's great to see Bill Elliott. And Kenny Wallace, you were just out on that racetrack a little while earlier. How greasy is it?
Well, the track is greasy. It's in the high 80s. It's windy. But one thing I like what Bill Elliott said is, look, and even Jimmy Johnson said it, and Matt Kenseth and Greg Biffle, let's get this race going. Let's see how crazy everybody is. And what happens if you get some crazy guys? Crazy means this, coming through the travel, beating and banging. Through the middle of 1 and 2, beating and banging. Look, lay off me, man. This is the qualifier. Let's get our cars handling. If you want to draft me nice, like Bill Elliott's talking, then we'll get a gauge on it. If they get stupid, then I'll just throttle back because I am in the Daytona 500. And Spence, I think that's the type of attitude you have to take because, after all, this race is purely just to see how their car is doing and line up for the 500.
I like everything you said, but what I like was what Jimmy Johnson said, but he doesn't like it. I mean, NASCAR's put these guys in this cocoon or whatever you want to say when they go through the room of doom. But that is what is going to make this race so good. That's what made Saturday night's race one of the best. That's what made the Daytona 500 last year one of the greatest races of all time. Reason being, these guys are under a microscope. You can't do a lot of things to your car. Now, the driver comes into play. You heard Matt, you heard Greg, you heard Jimmy, and Bill Elliott. The key here is to figure out what your car's doing. Make the adjustments. Get yourself ready for the 500. That's the key that Bill Elliott's looking for. Man, Johnny, what an attitude there. I like that. Look out, fans. That Wood Brothers is back.
Yeah, and it's quite a statement today that we got 18-year-old Joey Logano racing in these dual races. And we also have 50-year-old Mark Martin racing in these races as well. Young David Reagan also a participant today. Drivers of all ages, fans of all ages. We'll be back with more Race Day in a moment.
The countdown ends. As the green flag drops on the 51st 500. Who holds the circuit's most coveted trophy? Live from Daytona, NASCAR Race Day, built by the Home Depot.
It is time for another racing question from Ask.com, the official search engine of NASCAR. And here's the question. Who was the first woman to qualify for the Daytona 500? If you want to know right now, go to Ask.com where NASCAR fans get answers. Ask.com, the official search engine of NASCAR. And Jimmy Spencer, do you know the answer to that question?
Yes, but you know what? I was figuring out I'm going to drive to Daytona. So I said, how am I going to get there? I went to Ask.com and I got a map. So I didn't get lost. That's why I'm here. Ask about Tom, how can you beat that?
And you know what? Jimmy was on time.
I know that girl. I know that lady that made the race. I want to say.
No, you're not allowed to say. They got to go to ask.com and find out. You know, the underlying theme of this season so far has been change. There's a lot of very familiar faces in new places, and perhaps one of the biggest changes overall is Tony Stewart now driving a number 14 after 10 years behind the wheel of the number 20 Joe Gibbs racing car supporting Home Depot. Now, Tony is in a new place, but he is in a very familiar place when it comes to competition on the racetrack. He is this Sunday's real deal on NASCAR race day. Here's just a little bit of what Wendy asked the smoke.
All right, I'll put you both on the spot here. What is the one thing about the other that makes them who they are? What makes them unique? Tony?
He's way too smart. I mean, he's got an engineering background, so he has the great ability to come to me and start talking about something, and I have to go, wait a minute, say it in small words that I can understand. But that's a good thing about him too, is that he's very knowledgeable, you know, not only about racing but technology, the whole side of it.
Right, smarty pants, I guess. What's the one thing that makes Tony unique?
I've always said that, and I've admired him for being a great racer, and he's taken his racer perspective to the next level as far as being an owner in the Cup Series. So I admire that part. I admire the part that he's chosen me to be his teammate, and just the dedicated racer in him is the part that I admire the most.
Couple of Hoosier racers together. You'll see them in the real deal on Sunday from Wendy Venturini, and the rest of the staff will bring you NASCAR Race Day featuring Jimmy Johnson, Carl Edwards, and Juan Pablo Montoya. It's a 3-hour extravaganza starting at 11 a.m. Don't miss it. Woo!
NASCAR Race Day is built by the Home Depot. You can do it, we can help. Brought to you in part by Verizon Wireless. Call more people, use 0 minutes. Only on America's largest mobile-to-mobile calling family, Verizon Wireless. And by Bank of America, the official bank of NASCAR, where you can get a choice of NASCAR drivers on your check cards and credit cards.
It is time now for our Best Western, the best and the rest. And how we're going to start this thing off today, we're going to give you a favorite for qualifying and a dark horse for qualifying from each one of us. My favorite for getting into this thing, and probably because he's the next one in line to get in, is Regan Smith in that number 78. He's a good guy, good racer, almost won one of these plate races. And I would like to see Mr. Derek Cope, a former Daytona 500 winner, make it in today.
You know what? I believe Tommy Baldwin and Scott Riggs will make the Daytona 500. That's my favorite. Long shot, A.J. Allmendinger. But you know what? He finished 5th in the Bud Shootout. Keep his head on straight. Guy can make the 500.
Besides Tony Stewart winning everything the rest of this year, I think Joe Nemechek is a favorite. I think he's going to get in for sure on his qualifying speed, but the dark horse is my brother, Mike Wallace. He is a great race car driver here, and at the end, he will get crazy, and he will scare all the other drivers and make it play in the Daytona 500.
That's true. And now for the rest of the story, let's hear from Uncle Mike.
Well, I'm standing by with Mike Wallace now. Under normal circumstances, your brother calling you a dark horse might be a bad thing, but he's saying you got a good chance to get in this Daytona 500 because you got that experience.
Well, I appreciate that, Hermie, and I think I do. You know, I was watching Kenny and Jimmy on television earlier. I got so nervous, listening to how bad they said it was and how hard it was going to be. I started walking around and come over to TRG trailer. But I'm excited about today. I think we can get ourselves in. It's going to be a challenge, but hey, we're up for the challenge.
And Crew Chief Butch Hilton, not sure you'll ever have another race this year, at least, with more pressure on you than the crew chief. If this thing comes down to the end, what's more important, track position or tires?
Well, I think the tires will be more important if we have a long run going on there. So we'll put as many sets on as we got to have. We got 5 laying in the pits up there. Got the best guy we could get driving the thing. TRG Motorsports behind us and all the partners, and hopefully it'll go good for us today.
These guys trying to be one of the big stories on the outside looking in to surprise some people and send the big team home, Wendy.
All right, some of those guys that are on top and are locked in, of course, that front row. Kevin Bono Mannion, crew chief for Martin Truex Jr. Now, your strategy is probably a whole lot different than somebody like Tommy Baldwin down on the other end of pit road. What do you do when you get these close calls happening on the racetrack? Do you tell Martin to kind of get to the back of the pack, or what do you think?
No, that's not going to happen today. As much as we want to run this car in the 500, we really would like to win a race. You know, this team really, the pole was incredible, and it was a really big deal for this team. But sponsor Johnny Morse is here today with Bass Pro Shops, and we're looking for a victory.
All right, now a victory would be good, but what can you learn about this race car? It's hot and slick today. It was very windy yesterday, a little bit different conditions.
Yeah, you know, the weather for Sunday will probably be different than today and tomorrow's practice. So, like I said, we were off a little bit in practice, so we made some major changes and taking a shot at it.
What is pit strategy going to be from Kevin Bono Mannion today?
Every time the caution comes out, I think we'd like to take tires for, like you said, for as slick as it's been, and the tires are really doesn't seem to be lasting too long. But you know, we can make it on one stop like everyone else. So about halfway, hopefully, maybe a green flag stop, and we all come down. But we'll just play it by ear and see what happens.
All right, thanks, Bono. And you see Martin Truex Jr. by the window of the race car with one of the owners, Chip Ganassi, a sight that we are getting used to seeing here on pit road. Johnny?
Wendy, thanks a lot. Yeah, you're going to have to keep your program handy this year because there are a lot of different faces in different places now. But once the green flag drops, the idea is the same. And I like the way Bono Mannion said it. He said he's going to go to the front. We're here to win.
Well, you know, there he said his sponsors are here. It's a very important race. You saw so many guys put emphasis on Bill Elliott the same way. I think this race is going to be exciting. Fans, you're in for a heck of a race. Kenny, there's no doubt when I've been in these races, it's intense. And it gets intense the longer you go in this race. Only 60 laps. Going to be pretty neat.
A lot of different agendas. Bono said, look, we want to win for Johnny Davis and Bass Pro Shops because we're on the pole. You have Bill Elliott saying, look, we're locked in at 500. We want to make sure we test the car. If it's running good, we'll stay there.
Johnny Morse.
Johnny Morse. What'd I call him?
Johnny Davis.
Johnny Davis is a nationwide car owner. Johnny Davis, Johnny Morse. But I did say Bass Pro Shop.
They probably want to win for Johnny Morse and Johnny Davis. They just want to win.
But the key today, fans, Mike Wallace just said it. You know, we got 5 sets of tires. They don't care what it takes. They will do everything in their power, everything to get into the Daytona 500. You're going to see 2 wide racing. They say no 3. Bank on it. You'll see 3 wide racing, Johnny.
Coming off of 4, I would wreck somebody to make the Daytona 500.
No doubt.
Absolutely.
Well, some of the names may have changed, but the idea is still the same. Do whatever you can to make the Daytona 500. And if you're already in the show, chances are you're going to do whatever it takes to win one of these Gatorade Duel races at Daytona. We advise you to stay with Speed all day long. As race day is now over, we're going to send it to the Fox Race broadcast team, and they will bring you all the excitement of the Gatorade Duel at Daytona. Keep it right here on Speed until the 500.